Recording is in progress. Hello, everybody. Daryl Snyder, Brandon, Abbey R.C. Fischer, Sportstopia. It's we've had a lot of names for it. We're settling on a few, but it's R.C. Fischer, who's from Fantasy Football Metrics, been in the industry for, I won't say many moons, make him old, but
Couple
10
of
years.
moons.
Yeah, a couple of moons ago. I think it was full moon last night over San Francisco Giants park. I saw that. They lost. They're out of the playoff. We won't even get going there. This is a football show for Thursday night football. We got Green Bay, Detroit, Green Bay 3-0, Detroit 2-1. I think it'll be a really good game. A couple of players maybe back in the mix. We're going to get RC's feet on that, but this is this is where we take all this download from RC, and I'm going to turn it in tonight. We've talked about it. I tied for a Millie Maker. My goal beginning of the year was to win 2. I guess that technically counts as 1. I put out into the universe, win 2 solo. So tonight could be, I've taken a lot of notes from just my research with the Contrarian Edge Optimizer. We're going to pick out, how do you say that guy? I couldn't even say it. He was a wide receiver 3 for the Eagles. Zacchaeus. You knew his name. What is it?
Olamide Zacchaeus.
Hey,
Zacchaeus.
I did not bad. I thought I totally hacked it up, but he happened to be the contrarian play that I'll admit it. I totally missed him. We were all over Ronnie Rivers. I had him, but I want you to know I play almost exclusively DraftKings, but then FanDuel gave me they're luring me back in with a ticket, right? And then I turned that $5 ticket in their Millie Maker into like $14, and then I've parlayed it all the way up to I have 30 some dollars in there. Because that night with Monday, although I missed on the other one, I did hit there. So tonight I'm playing in both of them. But great to have you here. I know that I'll let you comment. What'd you think of was a 2-game set on Monday, Eagles and Tampa Bay, and then later game with Burrow. That was interesting, right? We didn't know if he played. He played. He was like the statue of Cincinnati. But I'll let you
All
go.
all I'm gonna remember from that night is Tutu Atwell should have had 3 touchdowns, and then there could have been some money made. I don't know who in the booth review had money against Tutu Atwell and the Rams to reverse that rushing touchdown to start the game, but it was all bad luck from there. Thank God he's caught a touchdown at the end.
Bad juju going on after that, huh?
Bad Tutu.
And didn't he get called for stepping out of bounds when it was real questionable there?
Yeah. I remember
It
now. The
was
little bit of white I thought
super,
flew up or
super
something.
questionable. He had his toe up or his heel
His
up
heel
and
was
his
up,
toe
yeah.
down, and it looked close. And I was thinking, there's no way there's enough to reverse that call. And sure enough, they reversed it. Then the next series, he was open for about a 10-yard touchdown throw. Stafford threw it about 6 inches too far in front of him, and he couldn't
Yeah.
get his hands on it. He got the late game touchdown.
What do they
But
call that word that we can never figure out? Indisputable. The announcers in the booth are going, "Oh, well, we don't think there's anything there that's indisputable." And then, after further review, you stepped out of bounds in the 6th. I'm like, okay, that's not indisputable. But anyways, that's a whole nother lengthy conversation. So, yeah, Rams, Bengals, Burrow. What do you think about Burrow and Chase? I thought they were going to break a record for 35 completions to each other for 60 yards. What do you think about how they played that out?
I was surprised that the Bengals figured out the most easy to figure out thing to stop Puka Nakua from getting 20 of those short passes right in front of their faces to disrupt the flow of the passing game. And then the Rams have it turned around right against them, and Burrow, who has to get rid of the ball quick. So he obviously he's throwing everything short to Chase because it made sense. That's what we talked about before the Monday night game was if Burrow's playing, it was going to be a Jamar Chase, not a T Higgins night, because it was the smartest short throw you could make, hoping that Chase would get some yards after the catch. That's not T Higgins' game. So they kept doing it, and I'm sitting there going, why aren't the Rams pressing up against this and forcing Burrow to? The longer they could have let Burrow sit in the pocket and have to really put pressure on his legs to throw deeper, the more likely he was going to throw an errant pass or maybe hurt his calf. Instead, they just sat back and watched him dink and dunk to Jamar Chase, and that ended up getting him in the end.
Yeah, what do you think? And the passes to Higgins, is this hands? Like, I mean, he's always been not being able to catch. Like, it's like he had like 2 or 3, right? Right, and the ones he did go to him, it's like he's not catching the ball. Is he so good that he's only good when it's like a fly pattern and he reaches like this? Because if he tries like this, it's like boom, boom. I mean, that's crazy.
If you take week 1 and week 3 of his games with Burrow, he's got 2 catches on 16 targets combined in week 1 and 3. Then in week 2, he had 2 touchdowns and like 8 catches and may have had over 100 yards. So I have no idea what's going. To me, T Higgins looks like he's got better things to do. Jamar Chase looks like he's got better things to do. He perked up a little bit in the second half, but they play with such a lack of emotion and a lack of excitement to be there. It's a fine line between calm and cool and just not interested. So that's what T Higgins just looks like to me. Like he's just going through the motions and he's surprised when the ball comes to him. And this is a contract year for him, so I'm not sure how that's possible.
It's
But
only
it
3
was
games. I
possible.
mean, we jumped to conclusions. I mean, one thing that was important, and Burrow said that's why he played. He did, if he was capable, he didn't want to envision 0-3. So they're 1-2 now, and they did beat. I think the Rams looked like they still are better than we thought they were going to be. So they went into that environment and still played decent. And
The
Burrow
Bengals,
said go ahead.
the Bengals have, to me, have one of the best defenses in the NFL, best depth chart of talent, arguably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. And the first 2 weeks, the defense played like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, I don't know if they're all smoking something together or what's going on, but
Edibles.
these the
Edibles are more
Bengals,
healthy. You don't get the smoke.
the Bengals defense finally woke up. If it wasn't for the Bengals defense, they are not winning that game. That was a hell of a performance by the Bengals defense, who's really good, who's going to give the teams problems ahead. So I was waiting for that to show up, and it finally showed up.
Bouncing to the game that made all the difference, the optimal lineup or the winning lineup in the Millie Maker. There were some ties. I think only 10 people tied. They did well. Was Hurts. Everybody kind of knew Hurts of the quarterbacks was who to play. We talked about that. Brown, we talked about him making sure Brown wasn't going to be whining on the sideline again to him. The defense was the Eagles, which was predictable. We thought about that. It was either going to be Baker Mayfield became like, way beyond what he'd already become. And he did that against the Eagles. Going to shock a lot of people. He didn't. Evans did. He was a target. So you had, but the missing piece or the contrarian piece was that Zacchaeus. which was a wide receiver 3. I faded a lot of Devontae. Obviously, everybody knew, including Brown, the ball was coming to him or going to him. He still, because Hurts laying it out, did well. Hurts, along with his passing, I've heard people say they're going to have to outlaw. He gets that within the 1 yard line, and they do that locomotive train piling up behind him, pushing him in. Right? I mean, that just become like you don't. I don't. I'm not going to play any. I don't care how good Swift look. I'm not playing any Eagles running backs the rest of the year. You play Hurts either naked or with Brown because you're going to get rushing touchdown. At some point, he's either going to take off running or he's at the 1 or he's at the 2 with like second or he's going to get pushed and pushed, right? So what do you think of that game?
You can't blame them for doing that. I mean, that'd be, if we're gonna complain about things that constantly work over and over again, that we have to ban them, we have to ban the Dolphins playing the Broncos ever again.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, well, we're gonna see the Broncos that play Buffalo, or the Bills play the Dolphins play Buffalo, right, this week.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother. We'll get out there on that. I mean, that
but
to me is gonna be a game. But
there's a big thing on that. I would go way off of Miami this week, not because I don't respect and like what they do, but literally no one was talking about the Miami Dolphins offense any differently than, hey, Tyreek Hill is really good. A week ago, when they scuffled their way by and almost lost to an inferior New England Patriots team. In fantasy, all the questions that I got is, should I start such and such or Raheem Mostert? I don't know if I want to start Raheem Mostert. 1 week later, now everybody wants to try to trade for Raheem Mostert, and they want Tua as the MVP in the media. And I mean, it's one game, and I just watched that game in the wee hours of the morning to report out on it on my site, and either the Broncos have the stupidest collection of defensive players that have ever been assembled to play a football game, or I think, and I could never be proven right or wrong on this, that defensive plan was so bad. I think that the Broncos are putting basic schemes together, enabling that they're likely to lose, because I believe Sean Payton wants to lose out to get the #1 pick or as high a draft pick as he can
here
get.
we go, third game in already.
Yeah, and I'm not joking. I mean, I have never seen a defensive performance like I did in that game, and I'll tell you, I have a screenshot of it for the picture on the report for my site. The first touchdown by the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill is lined up to the left. He's going to sprint about 5 to 7 yards and then slant to the right, all the way from left to right,
which he likes to do. Yeah,
which is not unusual. So that's what he does. There's not a cornerback set in front of him. He's just out there, lined up off the snap, nobody paying attention. Then he gets into his route and he cuts across the middle as he's heading his way to the right, of which he's going to be wide open. He's going to get thrown a pass that there's not even anybody in the camera shot when he catches it. And this is Tyreek Hill. It's not like it's Zacchaeus. It's Tyreek Hill. Somebody should be paying attention to him, but he goes untouched, uncovered from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. But as he's going across the middle, Robbie Chosen ran a route straight ahead up the middle for about 10 yards and then turned around and stopped to look back at the quarterback. Tyreek went underneath him as that was happening, as he was going from left to right. A cornerback was glued to Robbie Anderson, or to Robbie Chosen, or whatever his name is, was glued to him. So when Robbie turned around, when
He
Chosen
changed
turned
his name
around,
or something?
yeah, he's got
Another one of
his,
those used to be Robbie
yeah,
Anderson? Okay. He's the
yeah.
chosen one now. We have one of
Yeah,
those.
well, he was definitely the chosen one for Denver, because not only was there a cornerback glued to him, now he's just up off the practice squad, so it's
He
important
used to be
that
a Jet, right? For the
uh,
longest time or something?
yeah, it's important that Denver really game plan for him, that he's up off the practice squad to play, because Jalen Waddle was out. So Chosen turns around, runs his route, turns around. There's a Miami defender right on him. So when he stops and looks, there's a defender standing right next to him. So there's those two guys in the screenshot. There's a defensive back that's watching all of this in front of him. He sees the chosen one covered. He sees Tyreek Hill sprinting across the field. I swear to God, he goes over to double cover Robbie Anderson as Tyreek Hill is sprinting across the field, and then gets the pass, is wide open, he catches it. There's nobody in the screenshot, and he just races in for a touchdown. I have a screenshot of it. There's double coverage on Robbie Anderson on that play. That was probably the seventh stupidest thing I saw the Denver Broncos do.
Hey, I
So
gotta pause you there. Do you believe that there is any intelligent life form on the Denver Bronco defense?
I don't know if it's them or the scheme that they were given. And then they quit because they realized what the scheme they were given was. We're not going to really worry about Tyreek Hill. Who wants to care about Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, well, that play, I remember then he went down the sideline and the closest defender to him must have been a lot taller, because Tyreek is shorter than most, and all Tyreek had to do was like duck as he's going outside. That guy went at him and he just like ducked and he went in, and I'm like, well, you know where
You
he
got
picked that? I mean, that was Mahomes and his favorite. I mean, how many times did he do that with Kansas City, right? Like you
and
don't, that's not a surprise play. He comes, he runs, he turns, he gets it, and then he runs like a lightning bolt somewhere, right?
there was these two defensive backs behind the whole Robbie Anderson thing. The first closest one chose to go double cover Anderson. The other one that couldn't make the tackle, and the reason he was out of the screenshot was he's the safety that's supposed to be back, that you would think of all the receivers running their routes. If I'm the safety that's back, I should probably be shadowing and leaning towards wherever Tyreek Hill is going. He stood flat-footed, watched that pass go in, and then he had to run his butt off to try to get over there to try to attempt to knock him out of bounds before he scored the touchdown. But of course, you're not going to be able to do that with Tyreek Hill. It was unbelievable. On every running play, holes were wide open. There wasn't anybody even touching
I
those
know they
running
were like,
backs.
well, I think I was
Yeah.
going to say, I think they adjusted because it looked like they took all the linebackers then and chased Hill, because two guys, right? Mozart and Donka Shane, I call him. That's not his name, but it reminds me of a song. You remember that song, Brandon? I relate everything to song, but
I do remember that song, yeah.
a Shane, I'm looking up and I have Red Zone, right? I have the TV on my main and I have Red Zone on the computer, and it's like everything, I kept thinking Red Zone shows a lot of replays of scores. A Shane. A Shane. He had two. Mozart. I think he scored 4 in a row. A Shane. One was a little shovel back. And I'm looking at these holes. I'm like, did the Denver guy just? I made a joke, right? They come from playing in altitude. Maybe it was too low to the ground, and it affected them adversely that way. But we could keep talking. Yeah, that game was 70 points. 800 yards. I mean, how many yards of offense was there for there's college type, right? That's almost like you see some college games going back and forth. But so you're saying, just before we we pivot off that to back to tonight's game. You're saying that Buffalo will play a little bit stouter than Denver?
They might. There's
They
potential
might.
for it.
They might. They look good against that. I mean, unstoppable Jet offense led by Wilson in the rain. You agree?
I if we're talking about the Patriots, Jets, Zach
Oh,
Wilson.
it wasn't Buffalo. Buffalo Commanders. I'm sorry. Yeah, they shut down the Commanders, right? In a game
They
that
shut down the Commanders, who are getting to be very shut downable. I don't know how good Buffalo is, because all we know about Buffalo is they lost to the Jets. Zach Wilson lost their lead from behind, got beat. Then they beat the sad Raiders, and then they beat the sad Commanders. So I don't know how good Buffalo is. And Miami is lucky to not walk into that game against Denver 0-2. And I think Miami's really good, but they had to pull it out of the fire against the Chargers, and then they had to hold off. They were beating the Patriots pretty well on the judges' scorecard, but they almost got themselves knocked out in the final round playing around too much. So nobody was thinking that Mike McDaniels was the genius among all offensive coordinators this time a week ago, after they put 20 points or so on the Patriots and almost lost at the end. So I think there's a lot to do with that with the Denver Broncos, of which I'm still searching for answers of how that was possible.
Well, we'll see. We'll cover that on Monday. We got about 30 minutes, and I want to make sure we dive into tonight's Thursday night Green Bay, Detroit at Green Bay. Line's pretty close. It was 1.5, I think. Green Bay, I think, with Watson and I'm sorry, what, Brandon?
It's up to
Yeah,
2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got to think of Watson and Jones looking like they're gonna play. That's gonna be even a little better. I think Green Bay smashes. I think Love had his little bit of trouble with figuring it out. New Orleans had a big lead, but I'm not the guy that studies. Whoops, you're covering up. Oh, he doesn't like it. He likes Detroit. See, well, that's why we don't stage these shows where he doesn't know what I'm gonna say. So he's got a right to be not right, and I got a right to be not right as well. So it doesn't matter to me who wins, as long as who I put in the Millie Maker ends up propelling one of those lineups into victory. So go ahead. I can tell you kind of like Detroit because, I got to, is it Lambeau Field or where are they playing tonight?
They're playing at luxurious Lambeau Field.
The frozen, thawed out, not yet frozen tundra. Go ahead. What do you think? I can tell right now. I thought you're taking off your sweatshirt and you're going to unveil a Lions shirt underneath there or something like Lee Corso does on the college shows. But go ahead.
I was trying to hide from the incoming fire that was being spit.
I figured that out when it stuck right there. But obviously you're on the Lions side. So let's just talk about the game in general. Then we'll get into some of the down in the weeds near your back pocket, which we found out was your wallet last week, and see where you want to go.
My favorite DFS play.
Always giving it out in the beginning.
Player for this game is the Detroit defense. If that tells you how exciting this game is going to be. As an overview, from what I've seen the first 3 weeks, to me the most likely outcome of this game is Detroit is too physical, too well coached, too schematically prepared for Green Bay, who's undermanned with. I mean, when you're missing, it's one thing if they were going toe to toe with their full rosters, I would still be with the Lions. But when you take Jair Alexander out of the mix and you take Campbell, the linebacker, and you take Bakhtiari and Jenkins off the offensive line, you're asking a lot for Green Bay to go and beat. To me, the Detroit Lions are definitely one of the 10 best teams in the NFL, pushing to be maybe top 5 or top 6 team in the NFL. That is a well-coached, physical unit that is now starting to win the games that they should. They're capable of beating the Kansas City Chiefs on opening night. They manhandled the Falcons last week, and it's a pretty decent Falcons team. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst.
Oh, come on. That's a stretch of the imagination. What's good about them?
Uh, their defense this year has had a pretty good turnaround from free agency and a change at defensive coordinator, and they've got a good run game. They can't pass the ball, but Detroit went in and made them try to pass the ball. They cut off the run, the first team to actually think about trying to stop Atlanta's run game and focus on Bijan Robinson. So Detroit is just has got talent, good coaching, cohesion. Watching them on tape is a joy every week. So I think Detroit is the better team. When I watch Green Bay, I see just erratic spurts of one moment Jordan Love's throwing passes right to defenders like he doesn't even see them, of which they drop. And then when I'm shaking my head and I'm going, what were they thinking with Jordan Love? Then he'll sidearm a pass flat-footed on the money to a receiver 30 yards downfield, and you're like, is this Patrick Mahomes 2.0? So I think Green Bay is too erratic behind Jordan Love for a team like Detroit that doesn't tend to beat itself and takes away your best thing and makes you feature your worst thing, which I think they're going to try to make Jordan Love bait him into being erratic and throw them turnovers. That's why I like the Detroit defense, especially when Green Bay's missing 2 key offensive linemen. Detroit's going to be able to put pressure on them. They're not going to be able to run. Detroit has wiped out every run game that they face this year. That really hurts what Green Bay wants to do. I don't think Green Bay can subsequently. Detroit wants to be a run team as well, but Green Bay's got a bottom 5 run defense. It's just a mix of styles, a clash of styles that, with the injury report and everything, I just don't think it favors Green Bay. Green Bay is going to need some. If Green Bay wins this game, which is the NFL, anything is possible. If Green Bay wins this game, thinking for DFS purposes, it's because Jordan Love hit all of his off script throws and has a hell of a night and leaves everybody with their jaw on the ground of thinking, how did he do that? Where he could have 300 plus yards passing, 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, but that'd be a great night for DFS purposes. So I think they're going to try to run it at each other. Detroit's able to do that. Green Bay's not. And then it's going to be on Love. And there are ranges of outcomes where Love has a night where he is just on, and Love gets under pressure, but he runs through it because he's a pretty good runner, and he has 30, 40, 50 yards rushing on top of 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. It could be a great night for Love with them losing by 3
I like the
scores.
Love lock. Agree, and I didn't realize that. I mean, if Jones wasn't coming back, Dillon's nothing. I mean, he's like
Right.
guy trying to get out of the cement, steps in, doesn't know he's in. I mean, he's not surprising because I drafted him in a few best ball thinking maybe this was his year to emerge, and he's not shown anything. Jones could come in and be out in a series. I mean, coming back from his hamstring, right? I'm always leery because all of a sudden they just pull up, right? I mean, one play they pull up. But if you're saying 2 offensive linemen are down for Green Bay, were they down last week too, or did they lose one, or both of them, or? what
They were
happened,
down. They were down last week as well.
which would make sense why Dylan and the other
Which is
guy
why
having
Dylan
a,
struggled and why Love struggled. I mean, it wasn't until that team was getting the door shut in its face for 3+ quarters, and then 2 deep ball pass interferences get them down for their first
yeah.
of 2 comeback scores, and then they had a nice drive to get their second one to take the lead. So it definitely wasn't an offensive great tape for 3+ quarters in that game.
So I like what you say. I like Love. I don't like the running game, even if Jones plays without offensive line and injury or whatever. I think Love's going to have to. The
And
advantage if
Detroit's
Watson
run
comes back.
defense.
The what?
And Detroit's run defense. I mean, you already got a
Right.
hamstrung Green Bay run game potential because of the offensive line, but Detroit's run defense is one of the best in the league.
So
When
that
you can
opens
shut
it
down
up.
Atlanta, like they did, shut down their run game, that's probably a forerunner of what they're going to try to do tonight and make the quarterback beat them. Ritter's not capable of it. Could. Love could play right into them and really get his career off track tonight, or he could make his career tonight.
So you got Watson back, and then you have, I mean, the receiver core. You got Dobbs and Reed. Reed's come on as a rookie. You got a guy, Wicks, who's kind of a wide receiver 4. I'm kind of looking at him, thinking they can't guard all 4 of them if they're all in at the same time. Tight end, obviously the rookie Musgrave, and then Degura, kind of like Degura. You got to look at some of these darts, but okay, let's say your theory, which I like it. They shut down the run game. We've looked at the Green Bay side. We're looking at the other side. If Detroit wants to run, I think Montgomery's in, but he's back with Gibbs, I believe so. Did they confirm that he's going to play?
Yes.
Okay, talk about that. You got the 3. You got Gibbs, Montgomery, and Reynolds. What do you think about the run game going the other way for Detroit?
It's one of the ways you can beat Green Bay this week, because Green Bay's run defense has been porous this year, and Detroit has a great offensive line. The last 2 weeks, they've played without their one of their top tackles, Taylor Decker, but he's going to play. He's back and he's going to play tonight. So the Lions' offensive line is near full strength. They're missing one of their not top guys, but decent ones. But the Lions have one of the better, deeper offensive lines. So you run it at Green Bay and pass with Amon-Ra St. Brown as needed. So I think both of these teams, from a DFS standpoint, everything you would think is going to happen seems like that's the way it's going to go. I don't see a lot of wild card events coming from tonight's. It's going to be a battle of, do you think, Love is going to turn it up tonight? Do you think Christian Watson is going to have a big splash play? I think Jaden Reed is more exciting in general for fantasy than what Romeo Dobbs might be. Uh, Luke Musgrave, the one weakness Detroit seems to have is defending the tight end. Luke Musgrave should have had over 100 yards and a touchdown last week. He ended up having a good game, but he could have had a great game if Love didn't erratically overthrow him wide open. But you just have to live with that with Jordan Love. But if Jordan Love is on, he plants one of those on Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave could be the player of the night for this game. That's not totally hidden, but isn't a top name, I'm sure a top salary guy. On Detroit side, I'll bet I'll bet the ownership of Josh Reynolds dried up fast after he had a 0 last week. I think that's if he's lowly owned, I think he's one of the ones to target. Last week he had no targets and so obviously no catches, no
Raymond
yards.
had a touchdown. Did he get the other targets for them?
Raymond got the other targets. Raymond would be if there's a guy that's not any type of name at all that would be a high producer in this game. I would say it's Khalif Raymond over all of them as the somewhat out of nowhere guy. He has the talent. He's built for fantasy. He's got the speed of a kick returner. So he doesn't. Uh, he could get a bubble screen. He could get a jet sweep and make some hay off of it. But last week, I thought Josh Reynolds was hurt going into the game last week, and then I saw him not. But then he got cleared to play. So I'm thinking, well, taking on Atlanta, this should be a good matchup for Detroit. They're minus Montgomery. They're going to throw a lot on Atlanta. Atlanta's got a really good pass defense, better than I thought. They held the passing game pretty well in check, but they really held Josh Reynolds in check. It wasn't that he was hurt. They just put their star corner, cover corner on Reynolds because there's no sense in putting him on Khalif Raymond, and you're not going to cover the cover corner's not going to cover the slot receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. So Atlanta's top corner Terrell was on Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds couldn't breathe. Goff didn't even look at him. So it wasn't that Reynolds was hurt, as just Reynolds got wiped out of that game. Green Bay doesn't have, with Jair Alexander out, Green Bay doesn't necessarily have that guy that could totally wipe out Josh Reynolds. So Reynolds could bounce back, but Khalif Raymond, to me, would be the one X factor player that doesn't get a lot of love, but is super talented.
Could get in the box, huh? Yeah, it looks like this week I go with what you're saying because you got Jones back, so Dillon's Jones. The wild card there is Wilson. He's RB2, and then running backs for Detroit, Gibbs and Montgomery with another Reynolds. That's gets very few touches, but could be the running back 3. But I think with Montgomery back, they're gonna frickin' frack with Gibbs and Montgomery. Wide receivers. Tight end is where I'm a little scared. Laporte looked good, but I don't know how many Detroit games where Wright or Mitchell seem to somehow get a couple touches and they're in the end zone. You're playing the, used to be Hawkinson, right? You play him and all of a sudden he'd be like, come on. He'd get 6 or 7 catches for 60 and all of a sudden Goff would get down near the end zone, and I think it was Mitchell or Wright, right? And then you're like, think that's possible tonight with what's going on, or is it going to be he's got such a cohesion with Laporte that kind of like that, or
I'm not anti Laporta at all. He's good and he's integrated in with that offense, but they do pull a Brock Wright out of their rear end every so often. I think of the two, Musgrave to me is more attractive in that I'm sure most of the money's on Laporta. Most of the ownership percentages are on Laporta. Musgrave to me is a better talent than Laporta. They're both great rookies. But Musgrave is more built for fantasy good. And Laporta is just going to be a solid pass catcher for them. Musgrave can be a game changer. He's more like Dalton Kincaid than Laporta is. It's just, can Jordan Love deliver him the goods? He did pretty good job of it last week, but what isn't in the box score of last week was that Musgrave I think Musgrave had 6 catches for 50, 60 yards. So it was a good fantasy game, but that really was close to being 8 catches for over 80, 90, 100 yards and a touchdown if Love would have put some balls on the money to him. So I like Musgrave over Laporta in the tight end battle. And
Brandon, you're glancing.
I'm sure the ownership numbers will back that up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, Brandon. What do you see in ownership wise on who are the most popular? Obviously, we know St. Brown, I'm sure.
Yeah, St. Brown's up there. Of course, Love's up there. Goff's up there. Laporta is not that high right now.
What's he at?
He's about 4%. So I'm
Wow.
sorry. Well,
That would
no,
be
that's 4% as a captain, not as a
okay. What about Flux? Yeah, I could see that as cap. What about Flux? He's got to be 35, I bet.
Yeah, he's just under 30.
Yeah. What about Musgrave?
Musgrave is right about the same, 37% owned.
Anybody? What about Raymond? Wide receiver and Flux.
Let's see, where is Raymond? He is right just under 20% owned.
In the Flex?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, 80% ahead of the field. What do the wide receivers look like for Green Bay? Dobbs, Reed, Watson.
Actually, the Lions are 20. Lions defense is 20% owned, so they must have been paying attention to R.C. on that one. Who are you asking about there?
Wide receivers, Dobbs, Reed, Watson, with Watson coming back. How's that spread out?
Dobbs is 18%. Watson is 18%. Reed is 60%.
60?
Yeah, 58.3, but he,
Probably because it's price, right? It's
yeah, he's
cheap.
$5,600. So
Yeah, is that captain or Flex?
no, that's utility flex
Yeah.
price.
What's Josh Reynolds' price at?
Josh
bailed
Reynolds,
off of him.
well, as a captain, he's 9,300 and about 6% owned. As a flex player, he is 26%.
But the running back or the receiver you're asking about?
The receiver.
Josh Reynolds.
The receiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my strategy tonight's gonna be, I mean, I'm just gonna lock in. I like Love as a captain. I think even I have no problem locking him as a captain in Detroit's defense because of what you said. Detroit causes a fumble or an interception, right? We talked about that, but Love's got to do something. I don't have any problem fading Green Bay's running game. Like I said, just get away from that, go to Musgrave. Maybe, I'm going to run 100+ lineups. So some of them will be with, we don't know what Watson coming back. I mean, he's prolific. I mean, if he just floats one out there and the speed gets under it, right? He could house one for 80, and if you don't have him, you're in trouble. Because he just put about 15 on the board. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I'm assuming he's probably expensive, but Watson can be the difference maker on just a couple of catches, and the way that Love is slinging it, it could happen. Or it could break your heart that it's there and Love missed it, overthrew it.
Yeah, and it's all weight, right? When I say, if I
we're not talking.
I might play Jones. He could, if they get in the box, in the red zone or in the 10, and he's in, I can't totally not play him, but very percentage wise. But definitely you're mixing. I like Montgomery over Gibbs. I think a lot of people. What's the ownership Montgomery Gibbs wise? I got to believe more people are on Gibbs just because they think
Montgomery is 36%.
And while you're looking that up, we're not talking about the most obvious safe money player to have on either one of these teams. Is Amon-Ra St. Brown is gonna catch 7 passes for 80 and most likely a touchdown.
Oh yeah,
so,
he's in every lineup. I don't fade him at all.
Yeah, he never has a bad game, hardly.
No, the only way is if he gets injured, and you risk, but no, he's one of those. He's like Brown and Hurts. I played him in every lineup, but you don't want to be behind. And a bad game for them, like you say, for Brown, he's probably going to get, I mean, a bad game?
He just
Probably
won't get a
15?
touchdown. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll get 7 catches for 80
Yeah.
yards and no touchdown versus
Yeah.
with a
I heard
touchdown.
he's wearing a plate. He has a toe. Was it turf toe or
Yeah,
something? Or,
he had that last week and he got 70 or 7
yeah.
catches for 80 yards
Right.
and a touchdown.
Could be a decoy.
Yeah.
A decoy that the defense says, hey, my toe hurts. I've got a metal plate. Don't guard me. Go
Yeah.
pull a Tyreke on me and back off and go double team Reynolds or
I'm hurt. I'm only gonna have 7 catches, not 8 this game.
Yeah, that's probably what the over under is.
yeah, for the prop.
Yeah,
What is the total? 46, 47? What is the game total?
44.5.
40, so it's down. So everybody's following ffmetrics.com, RC. They're following your inside info and you're moving the line. Vegas is shifting because you're talking about the Detroit D, Motor
They do
City
have-
Madhouse.
I will give before we close or when we're getting ready to close, I will give the prop bet.
But yeah, we probably better do it. We have a few minutes.
That will
So I'm
make
gonna let you give one of your hip pocket specials.
I'll save that for the very end. You got any other questions or on players from this that are DFS wise? Because the prop bet I'm gonna give is on a defensive player.
I mean, not knowing Watson, I mean, Wicks is a wild card out there. I mean, if those three are healthy, I don't know if he plays, but he has played. He's gotten some targets. Kind of looking for a dart here and there. I won't play him much, but I'm not going to watch the game and see Wicks get in for a play and, 40 yards for a touchdown and I don't have him and other, 2% of the people do. So that, with Gibbs and Montgomery both playing, I'll probably fade Reynolds. The problem is if Montgomery comes back in and gets hurt again. So normally we look for a Ronnie Bell or a Zacchaeus type dart. If you have anybody there, it's pretty consolidated, right? It's just kind of figuring out the combination of who has an opportunity. You see anybody that's kind of maybe one of those from anybody I mentioned?
Besides Khalif Raymond, but he's starting, so it's not out of bounds. The player that could have the lightning strike touchdown this game, and I'm going to check one thing before I say it, just to make sure. I'm checking the snap counts from this past week. Is the wide receiver from Green Bay, Samaje Toure?
Yeah.
Is the deep ball, he's the Trey Palmer of the Green Bay Packers. If one of the receivers goes down, we could see it. Might see more Wicks in that case, but you'll see more.
He's a returner
Toure
too,
as
I
well.
think, isn't he? Doesn't he return?
I believe he returns. I can check that while I'm in, but I think Nixon, their slot corner, is their main return man. I just want to see how many snaps Toure played last week. So like last week without Watson, you had Dobbs and Reed playing. Dobbs 80+% of the snaps, Reed 66, Wicks 66, but then Toure played 42%. So he's not just a nobody that plays a couple of snaps and there's no real hope for him. There's some hope that they're going to inject him, especially if the game gets out of hand and they're needing to go up tempo and they're needing to move the ball downfield, even if it's the fourth quarter and they're down by a couple of scores. You're going to put Toure in to stretch the field, to be a part of the an offense more than Wicks is good ball control, solid receiver.
Yeah, I left him out. I had looked at him and then with Watson back, but I'll throw him in. I'll sprinkle him in.
If
He
anybody
scores, I'll be texting you.
if anybody was really going to come out of nowhere, and you have to check to see if he's even active for this game with Aaron Jones back. But let's say Aaron Jones comes in. Let me paint you an RC fantasy land scenario, which you could also title the podcast. Aaron Jones comes back, pulls his hamstring again, and immediately is out of the game and done for the day. So then obviously AJ Dillon is experienced and is going to be in there. But I think the single best talent on the Green Bay backfield from just a pure physical talent standpoint is Emmanuel Wilson. And
I have
Emmanuel
I have him
Wilson,
down there. Yeah.
Emmanuel Wilson is trying to be. He had the door open to him the last 2 weeks that if he would have got in with some of his touches, if he would have hit a home run ball with one of them, AJ Dillon would be potentially really starting to take a more of a back seat when Aaron Jones is out. It would have been a Dillon Wilson split. Wilson is the talent, but he's young. He's an undrafted free agent, and I don't know why they thought, hey, this undrafted free agent rookie who has barely played, let's throw him the ball and have him throw a lateral pass back to Jordan Love. That'll be a great play. So somehow they used their most talented running back last week to throw a lateral pass, of which Jordan Love then picked it up off the ground and did a split in a dance move and tried to throw it downfield. So
I remember that play. Yeah, that didn't work out too good.
that's not the way I want Emmanuel Wilson to be used. So
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna play again. I play 100 lineups. I mean, I don't have a problem. 10% Wilson sprinkling in, 10%. It just depends on how you put them in with who. But you got about a minute left. Tell us you have a prop play. I think you want to spring on us. It's going to be a what they call a bank buster.
And they took this prop down for the moment on DraftKings. Before the show, I was doing some work on it. That they haven't put them back up yet. But total tackles plus assist as a prop on DraftKings. They had a whole list of options for this game.
They knew the show was coming on, so they were a little scared.
They must have. So the slot corner for Green Bay, Keyshawn Nixon, has an over under 3.5 total tackles, of which he's beat that twice already this season. He's the new starting slot corner, but he's going to be the one that's going to be chasing around Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I assume that Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get a number of targets to give Nixon even more opportunities at tackles. So my 5-star special isn't even on the draft. They took it away from me for the moment.
It could come back. It's probably up to about 8.
It wasn't that they took it wasn't that they took him off. They took everybody. There's not even a listing for tackles, total tackles, but there was 30 minutes ago. So I got a message from one of my guys that puts in the bets on that, and he's like, "There's no tackle options," and I'm like, "Well, I either dreamed it or they took it down for the moment," which they do ahead of the games as they're shifting the odds and making changes. So if you see it at it was minus 3.5 at like plus 120 odds, that would be my 5-star special, which doesn't help DFS.
Yeah, we'll contact some of our out of state where it's legal and have them jump on it. But RC, thank you. Appreciate it. RC Fischer, ffmetrics.com. We've graduated to the big show. You can find this now on the Sportstopia HQ for headquarters YouTube channel. We'll post it on Twitter. RC will post it. I'll have it to you, RC, and probably within the hour or so, right after this next call, that there are people in the waiting room. But thank you. I think we're going to be doing a happy dance tonight. I'll be texting you and going to tell you how Mr. Wilson housed it twice, and we just blew the slate away.
If that happens, my life is gonna be so good this week.
We're going to we're taking you to Catalina.
Uh-oh, Catalina time.
Here we come.
Have a great one. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Good luck.
Thank you.